These are the Great Goikian Bake Off / Spring on the Breakfast. That's right, for this vlog, I'm going to talk about 2 episodes. One from Battle for Dream Island, The Power of 2, and the other, Inanimate Insanity Invitational. Now, the reason why I'm going to talk about these 2 episodes simultaneously because both of these episodes were released earlier at one of their object show conventions at Los Angeles and New York City, and then they were later posted on YouTube on the exact same date. And since last month was so filled with summer movies, there are still a few anime movies I'd like to talk about later on my channel, so I decided to speed things up by talking about these 2 episodes on this vlog. Since Battle for Dream Island was the one object show that started everything for the object show community, it gets to go first. So for this episode, the strongest team on Earth and the Are You OK team were put up for an elimination because they failed to give 2 a dinner plate. The strongest team on Earth gets to go first because they didn't get a chance to touch one of the dinner plates under the sea. If they're safe, they get a file folder to explain how they can get past 4 and X to get some food from the hotel. That's right, 4 and X are back, everyone, and this time they've been promoted as dinner chefs for the hotel guests. However, they're not letting the TPOT contestants in since they are not hotel guests. Anyways, Grassy is the first one safe for being Grassy, and Snowball got the second most votes for his amazing drive-thru story. Robot Flower, although she sabotaged her own team in terms of teaming up with TV, she's the third one safe. And Belle got the 4th most votes in terms of her idea with the fish monster communication and worrying about the funding plan from the last episode. Which leads us to Basketball and Eggy. Basketball might receive enough votes because she is still technically the leader of the strongest team on Earth, and her leadership had help from time to time. And Eggy, she might receive the most votes because, yeah, there's no reason why to keep her around. Eggy is eliminated. It's really no surprise that Eggy has to go already because she fell through the same trap that got her in the bottom 2 in the last Cake and Steak episode. If you guys don't remember, in TPOT 2, Eggy was given second in command while Basketball was busy fixing Robot Flower, but she failed to do any sort of leadership skills. And in the last episode before TPOT 6, Eggy was given a position to keep an eye on Robot Flower and TV, but she did absolutely nothing to stop the chaos. So due to the lack of value of any position she was given, her time in the game had finally cracked. Now for the second losing team, Are You OK? Pen received the most votes for standing up to Golf Ball and with the idea that he could be the leader instead of her. However, Golf Ball received the second most votes. Although she was whiny in the last episode and really mean to Puffball, she is sometimes good with challenges in terms of her leadership. TV received the 3rd most votes for his idea of sabotaging the strongest team on Earth. Puffball received the 4th most votes due to all the hard work she did all by herself in TPOT 4 and 5, while Eraser had enough votes to stay in the game since he was the one that tried to deliver the dinner plate to 2. Which means Tennis Balls and Fries are the only ones left, which means either Golf Ball or Puffball will have to say goodbye to one of their best friends. Although Tennis Ball's times in the game wasn't considered clumsy, he does act more like a follower to Golf Ball than anything else. With Fries though, he could be the kind of contestant that will receive enough votes to stay in the game due to standing up to Puffball after how badly Golf Ball has been treating her lately, and teaming up with Puffball to sabotage the other teams. However, there were some flaws in terms of his sabotage ideas, especially with the S team. It was another close battle, but the Ball family is safe, which means it's time for Fries to start packing. Fries was really not much of my first choice on who I want to see be eliminated in this episode. I was actually expecting Golf Ball would be eliminated due to her whiny behavior from the last episode. However, as previously stated, her leadership is sometimes good at challenges, so there was an explanation why Golf Ball has the second most votes out of everyone left in the team. It wasn't an upsetting elimination like with Cloudy and Ramon's elimination, but it was kind of sad to see Fries go so soon. Now for the 6th contest, the 7 teams must find some food before sunset. Whichever teams have the best meal on a scale of 1 to 10 will be safe from elimination. The 2 teams with the lowest scores will be up for elimination. I thought this episode was great because this is the episode that Golf Ball finally apologized to Puffball on how she'd been treating her for the past few episodes. There's a funny scene with Just Not on playing a fancy board game inside Tree's treehouse, which I didn't even know he had one in the first place. And it was nice to see 4 and X again. Though I will admit, it does feel weird that they're now side characters in this Teapot episode instead of hosting the show like they usually do. Now, I'm not going to explain every detail on the teen side plot since I want to get to the Inanimate Insanity episode, So instead, I will be talking about the two teams that had the best and worst side plots in terms of gameplay in every detail. But if you want to know the basics, the strongest team are going to steal some food from the hotel by avoiding 4 and X. Deadpack enters Gelatin's abandoned steakhouse to find what is left inside the steakhouse, which is a dead fish. The REOK team are going to find an exotic dreamberry located inside Golf Ball's underground factory. Teardrop must bring a box of 100 chocolate balls, however, a few of them got loose, so she must bring all of them together before 2 can check them in. The S will use Yellowface's advertising power to make a flavor cereal. Just Not will go on a noble quest to slay a dragon and turn it into a feast, while Team H will literally turn 2 into a food. Yeah, remember that one joke where one person asks another person to make them a sandwich and the other person literally turns them into a sandwich? That's what Team A is doing based on Gaty's insight with 2. Now, with the teams who had the best and worst side plot in the episode, the worst side plot would have to go with Deadpack again because they're still under the oath that they would have to prevent death, and they find this dead fish inside the steakhouse, but they don't want to serve it to 2, so they're trying to figure out a way to bring this dead fish back to life. The problem with the side plot is that it clearly showed that Deadpack again are getting carried away on this preventing death because they found a fish that has been dead for who knows how long, probably even before they decided to join the game. If they really didn't want to serve this dead fish to 2, they could have found some other ingredients or other food to serve to 2. In fact, they found a tortilla to wrap around the dead fish. They could have just served 2 a taco or something. Now for the best side plot, Just Not really had an epic fantasy quest on slaying this dragon. This side plot was really amazing and funny because ever since they played that fantasy board game at the beginning of the episode, they decided to make their challenge into a fantasy quest. And they even had their own narrators singing their noble quest to go and find the dragon inside the deepest part of the forest. The singing was the best part in the episode because I really like the lyrics and music, and it does get funny where the narrator forces Just Not to do everything that they sing, whether they like it or not. Congratulations, Jack and Jellyfly, you made Dungeons & Dragons cool. First Paramount, and now you. A great episode with some great meals, except for the part with the cereal at the end. Speaking of cereals, on the Inanimate Insanity episode, the final 6 are visited by a peculiar character called Springy the Spring, the mascot for Springtastic cereal. For this challenge, they will be in pairs and solve a series of puzzles inside these giant cereal boxes. Whoever gets out of the cereal box gives Springy a high five and say the catchphrase, "Spring on the breakfast," that person will win the immunity cookie. One of the major components of the episode is explaining why so many people are so happy with these cereals, like the puzzles at the back of the boxes and that catchy jingle and commercial. In fact, the Springtastic cereal has its own commercial, and it has the same vibe as the commercial from the 1990s or the 1980s, where everything is live action except Springy, who is a cartoon character. But who puts springs in a cereal? That's a choking hazard. Actually, the memorable moment with Springtastic is not really the commercial, it's the true nature of Springy and the challenge itself. When you look at Springy, at first they seem cartoony innocent, but the more they go deep into the cereal maze, and the more that Springy gets so upset with Bob being the new cereal mascot for Springtastic, there's something really disturbing about them. For some strange reason, the past comes back to haunt the final 6. Nickel Balloon had Suitcase, Silver Spoon and Yin Yang had Candle, and Bot and Cabby had Test Tube. Balloon and Nickel can't seem to reach a compromise and be good friends again because of the events from last episode, and now they're back hating each other like they were back in Season 2, and now they're being haunted by Suitcase, who just tells them to just apologize, and she tells it in a death-like glitchy manner. For Silver Spoon and Yin Yang, Ying had full control of the body, with Ying being on vacation for a while due to Candle's elimination. So both Silver Spoon and Yang decide to take the game into their own hands, with Yang doing full chaos without being a softie, while Silver Spoon tries to figure out a way to backstab Yang later in the challenge, even though the real Candle wants both of them to keep going. And then there's Cabby and Bot. The reason why they're being haunted by a simulated version of Test Tube is because the real Test Tube doesn't know what Bot looks like now, and they're afraid what Test Tube will think of them. And it was Cabby's rejoin and vote that what got Test Tube eliminated in the first place. But do you know what's interesting about the relationship between Cabby and Bot? They seem to be good friends with each other. You know how in the past episode that Fan and Test Tube can't seem to get along with Cabby in terms of how she's writing everyone? Well, in this episode, Cabby actually helps Bot to confront their fears without actually writing anything about them. And even if Cabby might not remember anything about Bot, they will tell her again as good friends. I was concerned that Springy might take Bot away from the Inanimate Insanity group because I presumed that Springy might be working with C. Cobbs and the Meeple army. Because throughout the episode, Springy tried to reel in MePhone with the nostalgia by signing a contract to make Bot a new toy line and mascot for Springtastic cereal without Bot's consent. And for whatever reason, Springy seems to glitch out every time they get overhyped or under so much pressure on trying to sell Bot as a merchandise. And Springy has 3 spaceship-sized cereal boxes. As MePhone previously stated, Steve Cobbs always wanted a spaceship. And the more they talk about merchandise, the more eerie and disturbing they get. You know those indie horror game franchises like Five Nights at Freddy's, Bendy, Telltale, Amanda the Adventurer, Boldy's Basics, and a few others? Springy's like one of those indie horror games. They're a parody of a childhood character when all of a sudden they got possessed by some sort of dark force that turns into nightmare fuel, wanting to jump scare you. As for the final 6, I really like their arcs in the episode. I thought the relationship between Nickel and Balloon are understandable since they still have a long way to go to recover after the last episode. It is going to be interesting what will Ying Yang do now that Candle's no longer there to keep them under control, and Silver Spoon did come up with a good strategy on how to get further into the game. I like the relationship between Cabby and Bot, and I also like the side plot involving MePhone concerning that contestants are happy that they're no longer competing in the game. Yes, he knows voting someone else is part of the game, and someone has to win the $1 million for seasons 2 and 3. But once the game is over, everyone will go back to their regular lives like they used to. So what will become of MePhone after all of this? What will happen between him and the cast he created? Throw in an extra lovely scene from the Dividend Island, and you pretty much have another amazing episode of Inanimate Insanity Invitational. And those are my thoughts on Battle for Dream Island, The Power 2, and Inanimate Insanity Season 3. What will the TPOT gang do now that 4 and X are back? And what's going to happen to MePhone in its Season 3 Final 5? This is going to be a to be continued for both of them, so we better save room for desserts for the next episodes.